Hello everyone and welcome back to The Reaction, a video sponsored by The Morning Watch at Michigan State University. My name is Chrissy Clark, I'm the editor-in-chief of The Morning Watch, and for once today I do not feel like reacting to anything at all. Wow, I know, crazy. Instead, what I did was I decided to have a political conversation with somebody whose political views are completely different than mine. So I kind of wanted to give you a background, to tell you some the story behind it. So I had a friend post on Instagram. It was a story that said, if you are wearing a Reagan Bush 84 shirt, you should really rethink whether you're an ally to the LGBT community. And naturally I reacted and I messaged him and I was like, wait, what do you mean? I own a Reagan 84 or a Reagan Bush 84 shirt and I love the LGBT community. Like, what are you trying to ensue here? And this really could have turned into an aggressive conversation fast, and I mean, that was because I kind of was aggressive towards him, and I kind of regret my own actions in that sense, but it turned out to be a really good thing because, this, like I said, it could have really easily turned into a screaming match on Instagram DMs, but instead, what it turned into was a ton of amazing conversations about our differing political views, and we were able to find a lot of common ground, not only common ground, but we had continuous dialogue and we came to a general agreement about a lot of things, like a surprising amount of things. And I feel kind of like we all sit around and we're like, okay, yeah, it's not really newsworthy to tell you all the great things in life. But I just feel like the news never publicizes good conversations between Republicans and Democrats or people in general that just aren't 100% like-minded, even libertarians and conservatives or progressives and regular old Democrats or liberals. And so nobody ever talks about this kind of stuff. So instead, I talked to my friend Kent Kubani, who's the guy that I was Instagram DMing, and he's a senior at Michigan State. He's an advertising major, and he's done literally everything that you can do with advertising in his major. He's done it. You name it, he's done it. He's incredible, total rock star of a guy, and just an incredible individual. So I asked him to come over and film for the reaction, and we ended up talking for 40 minutes before actually recording a single thing because we were nitpicking at each other's brain and just having a genuine good time, which is kind of rare when you're talking about politics. But we agreed that the Syrian refugee crisis in Russia is something that nobody ever talks about. It's just doesn't have enough face time, just like how good conversations between differing minds never get enough face time on TV or really on anything. So, and where we kind of saw the agreement, and you'll see it in the conversation, is that whether you identify as a Democrat or you identify as a Republican, regardless, we really, obviously all of us identify as humans, and we want to empower other human beings, especially those that are on the side of justice. So we just recorded a conversation of us talking about those things, and yeah, so I'm just going to hand it over to Kent. Enjoy. Okay, awesome. So I'm so excited that you're here, and all of the reaction listeners get to hear this. But can you just tell me a little bit about how you got interested in politics and what made you want to come over and talk about this stuff today?
Yeah, so obviously after the 2016 election, we all seemed to kind of hide in our own corners, whether you were a Democrat or Republican, whatever you were, the conversations just kind of stopped, the productive conversations.
Yeah.
And I stopped having those conversations myself for a long time, and eventually I got really tired of just feeling like I wasn't supposed to be talking to certain people, or I wasn't supposed to be. There's this idea that that you should be open-minded, but you should only consider ideas within a certain realm of what's okay and what isn't. And while I do, there are things in that sentiment that I do kind of agree with, I'm really interested in having conversations again, you know?
Absolutely.
So
I think that's exactly what started us talking.
Yeah.
Is, I saw something that you posted on Instagram and I was like, wait, let's have a conversation about it. And it really easily could have turned into a screaming match over Instagram DMs, which is pathetic and what happens a lot. But we were actually able to have a conversation and then sit down for 45 minutes prior to recording this and talk about really awesome things.
Mm-hmm.
So beyond that, there are some conversations that don't get had on the news that you and I really clicked on, and we really had a good conversation about, like Syria, like China, and they have internment camps there.
Mm-hmm.
So can you just tell me a little bit about one of those issues that's really powerful to you?
Yeah. So I'm not an expert on. I mean, I'm an advertising major, so I take interest in a lot of these things.
Great.
But I think something that doesn't really get talked about as much as it should, because of how serious it is the Syrian refugee crisis.
Mm-hmm.
Since it started in 2011, but since probably 2012, that's like when we've been getting like the little clips, like we've been hearing about it.
Mm-hmm.
And it goes up and down, and there are times when people talk about it more than others, but like through these past 7 years, like whether we're hearing about it or not, like it's terrible. So I did, like I said, I'm not an expert, but I thought I'd use this opportunity just to really like let people know kind of like what's going on there. So since 2011, there's been over 560,000 casualties. 7.5 million people have been displaced. Like I said, it started in 2011. I don't remember hearing about it. I don't remember like in 2012 when I first heard about it, but looking back, like I feel like that's, I don't know. I feel like that's like when I started, like when it came to my attention.
Right.
So basically, there was unrest and discontent with Assad, the president of Syria.
Mm-hmm.
And the problem was the government tried to silence these people. They like through violent like measures. So from there, it only escalated.
Mm-hmm.
With Syria, there's a lot of talk. We talk about Russia all the time. Like we talk about Russia with like the election and with everything.
They're the boogeyman.
Which I think those conversations are important as well. But what really is alarming about Russia, since 2015, Russia has been supporting the Syrian government in their efforts to, stifle these people and like what they're trying to say and their freedom. So in 2015 alone, there were over 300 attacks on children's hospitals and schools, and those were aided and embedded by Russia, like with the Syrian government, which, like I said, I don't know. Like I'm not like I don't know about like specific events.
Yeah, actually, I'll tell you one if you if we could just keep having this freewheeling conversation. Is I was in Israel for a mission trip, and we went to a hospital called Zif, which is it's a hospital. They go to the border of Syria because Israel obviously borders Syria, and they take people who have like blown up legs that come to the border and like are seeking help, and they bring them into the hospital, fix them up, and they go back willingly. Like it's not like they don't want to stay in Israel. They're like, we're going back home, and that's great. And they go back, but Russia and Assad have been trying to bomb this hospital of people because they know that the rebels are the ones that are coming.
Does Israel border like what is it, like the north?
Yeah,
east.
Yeah,
northwest?
They're like, so Israel's at the top, like and then Syria's like that's the end.
So they're right on like the rebel land, basically.
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Isn't that crazy?
That is crazy.
So for Russia to be not only attacking Syria, they're helping and attacking other countries as well.
Right.
Which is crazy. Like, absolutely crazy.
That's just the thing that like this is like such an insane humanitarian crisis. And like then we're having these conversations like on the news like all the time, like about Putin and about the back and forth between the US and Russia and the election, and I think that's fine, but the normalization of like Vladimir Putin and Russia, just like talking about him, like but no one's talking about what I think we really do need to be talking about, which is these people's lives that are being like upheaved.
Absolutely.
And I think just the idea of like the gassing of your own people, like killing your own people. I mean, I feel like we hear about, like we're in the United States and we're hearing about this, and it's not that it doesn't seem real, but there's absolutely no way for me personally to like.
There's not a parallel. There's really not a direct parallel.
Yeah.
We sit around and we complain about things like, I don't like my president, and my president says bad words all the time. Like, yeah, he says a lot of terrible things all the time, but he's not gassing you. He's not displacing you from your home. You know, that's not to say Trump's amazing. It's to say we're very privileged here, and sometimes it's really hard to understand what other people are going through.
Yeah, and I think, like, I'm very interested in holding the president accountable when he needs to be held accountable.
Right.
And, you know, using my freedom of speech. But I will say that it just seems like this is something that more people should be caring about, like, right now.
Absolutely, because at the end of the day, whether you're Republican or Democrat, you're human.
Correct, yeah.
It's a humanitarian crisis.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for coming on the show and talking with us today.
Yeah, no, I actually have a quote
yes, please, tell
that
us.
I'd like to read.
Share.
So this is by Breck Stevens. He spoke at the Lowy Institute in Sydney, Australia. It's from September 23rd, 2017. And he was talking about how throughout history you had, like, Aristotle arguing with, like, Homer and the Galileo, like, all of these, like, philosophers and, like, like scientists or whatever, and it's basically about, like, how they disagreed with each other, in disagreements. So they are never based on misunderstanding. These disagreements arose from perfect comprehension, from having chewed over the ideas of your intellectual opponent so thoroughly that you can properly spit them out. In other words, to disagree well, you must first understand well. You have to read deeply, listen carefully, and watch closely. You need to grant your adversary moral respect, give him the intellectual benefit of the doubt, have sympathy for his motives, and participate empathically with his line of reasoning. And you need to allow for the possibility that you might yet be persuaded of what he has to say. So I just thought that really kind of encompassed the first 45 minutes of you know, what we talked about, and just kind of the way that we all need to be thinking about, you know, our adversaries and, like, what they're saying, kind of like the human behind the words. So,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, thanks again for coming
Thank
on. I
you.
really hope this resonates with everybody as much as it did with me.
Me too.
I just thought that quote and that time with Kent was just really powerful and really special, and I hope that you guys really thought about everything that he was saying, especially that end quote. It was just really interesting. My favorite part about filming this entire thing, I must say, was that Kent continuously said, like, quote, I'm not an expert on any of this. I'm not an expert on this subject or whatever. And when he was saying that, I was like, none of us are experts. Like, 8 out of 10, maybe even like 9 out of 10 times. When you are having a political conversation with somebody, none of you guys are experts on anything. You have your opinions because you've experienced different things, and, like, you know, that's your opinion. But, like, you're not an expert on it. So, like, it's okay to admit that you're not an expert and you don't know everything. It humanizes you. It makes the conversation easier instead of being a know-it-all. That's just so toxic. And I really hope that you guys got out of this conversation, or watching a conversation about politics, out of it what I got out of it, if that makes any sense. But if you like the content that you're watching, please subscribe to us at The Morning Watch and follow us on Twitter at watch_morning and myself at Chrissy Clark_. I just wanted you guys to know that, like, last week a ton of people subscribed to The Morning Watch and a ton of people followed our account on Twitter, and you guys literally make my entire week, and you make me, like, really confident and want to produce more content every single week. I made it my January resolution to, like, get better at putting these videos out every single week, but I'm just so much more motivated to do it than, like, my own resolution when you guys are almost craving the content as well. And obviously you're not just getting reaction videos, you are getting so much more with that. You're getting emails, you're getting the content from our website as well, and it's incredible. I mean, this website is only a few months old, and it's pretty incredible if I do say so myself. So the whole team loves to hear your feedback, so please send that our way. Finally, I hope you guys really enjoyed just watching a video that was different than a reaction video or a news video, where you just got to listen to somebody have a conversation. And I hope that this is something that you guys think about and add into your life, because, you know, all we can hope is that we have more political discussion and it brings us closer together instead of further apart. So from East Lansing, Michigan,